Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is your host. White color gun. I was about to say, like, what is my name? What am I here for? Of course, this is the Angels in Politics broadcast. Remember, you are the news, and yeah, I'm the creative and artistic manifestation of Angels of Politics. Angels of Politics, of course, being the philanthropy, the philosophy, the understanding that you are the archetypal superhero. You have spiritual powers, superpowers. You must manifest them through hard work, through dedication, through cultivation, refinement, all types of ways that you will develop yourself, self-development, creative development. Um, Develop every area of your expression. Mentally, psychologically, cognitively, socially, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Somebody might even say sexually. I don't really know what that is, but I'm pretty sure you might need some development there. I know I do, right? So let's go into. Well, I have to finish. Well, I can't even say I can finish. I want to finish up, or give you part two of the first daughters segment. So to I guess give you a brief encapsulation of the last video. I moved to Thailand in 2014. That was my first teaching gig. I've never taught before. I got trained to teach English as a foreign language. The acronym is TEFL. I got TEFL certified in an island called Koh Samui. And it was a 2-week program, really cool program actually. I met really nice instructors, and they kind of give you like the basis, like the basic rundown on how to create a lesson plan. I mean, they really don't go into classroom management because they can't teach classroom management. The only way you will learn classroom management is by like experiential learning, of course. Putting yourself out there, being in the classroom, and seeing how kids react to you whenever you aren't in charge. That's going to be the only way you'll learn, for sure. Um, but it was cool. Like the leaders of these programs were like English guys, guys from the UK, and there was a lady too. I think her name was like Jane from TEFL, but I think she was American. Uh, the British. The British and the Aussies have been in Thailand for quite some time. I will say that. I was there in 2014, but these were like people who were, a bit more, they were older than me, but still very young. I would say 40s, 50s, some 60s, and they had been there almost as if like going back and forth, like it was a common thing. Like this was nothing new, for them, so to speak. And I think I know why. Like England being, even though I've never been to the UK, I know it's a bit of a dreary place, a bit of a colder, wet climate, a bit of a, you know, I don't think there's much sunshine in those areas as much. Maybe on your specific seasons and certain days you might have a good day, but for the most part I think the UK, I mean England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, both parts of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and the parts of that constitutes the UK, I don't think they get much of the sun. So being in Thailand, where that's where the sun is for damn sure. So it's like I can see, and then it's cheaper there. The British pound, the euro, you go over there and you're rolling. You're like rolling in the dough. If you made substantial money, let's say you were in the military or something like that in the UK, and you wanted to get your retirement and just move to Thailand or move to the Philippines or move to Vietnam or move to Cambodia, move to Malaysia. Yeah, you'll be doing all right for yourself. And if you like the food and if you like to be flexible and you're pretty keen on the women, yeah, I think you'll do more than all right for yourself, so to speak. You'll do more than all right, honestly. So either way, it was common for me to learn. I mean, it was cool for me to learn in these environments at the TEFL school. I met people from the States. I met people from South Africa. I met people from Scotland. I met people from Australia, the UK. I mean, the whole thing, and it was cool. I finally get in a position. When I say finally, like after the certification, it wasn't guaranteed that you were going to find a job, but luckily I was one of the few people that actually had a college degree, which I was kind of surprised about, but I guess not. people who graduated college from, America, Canada, the UK, Australia probably aren't thinking for the first when they finish school is to move to Thailand to teach English. That's probably like a job that you would do if you've lived life for a while, if you've been in the corporate sector for a while, you've been in the private or public sector, or they call private sector here in the States. Public would be like government jobs. Like, let's say you worked a proper job and you realize like the monotony or the monotonous work or the regimented work or the mundane tasks, the million, what's the term? I don't know what the term is. Not millennium, but millennial. I guess the tasks that are like repetitious. The repetitious tasks, like I guess that kind of like has plagued you for a while, and you want to do something drastically different. And you live in an area where it's cold and it's wet and it's rainy all the fucking time. So you were like, you know what? It's drastically different. Teaching in Thailand. So like, that's why I feel like there's a lot of English teachers there. A lot of people from the UK that go there, or they have a lot of programs or centers that help people with the whole transitional process. So, be that as it may, I get to the school, St. Joseph's, in, let's say July, I guess. I mean, the school year had already started. So maybe, yeah, maybe like July, I get there. And I remember like meeting the head teacher and him sending me the email. It was cool because I was in Chiang Mai at the time. Chiang Mai is up in northern Thailand. Beautiful area. Actually, if I would have been teaching there, I don't know, my lifestyle would have been a bit more turned up. I mean, it's definitely not as busy as the Bangkok area, and I didn't teach in Bangkok, but it wasn't as quiet and reserved and whatever um, as the city that I was in called Rayong. So if I would have been in Chiang Mai, it still would have been very touristy. It would have been a bit more, definitely more developed, more industrious. So my lifestyle probably would have been, of course, very different than what it was in Rayong. But be that as it may, I remember getting that email because I had my resume up on one of those teacher websites where they look for foreign teachers who have their certification, and it was like it was almost like, yeah, I was destined to be there. It's like, oh yeah, we looked over your stuff for a while, and we're keen on having you, and it's, we're ready. The students are ready to see you, and the staff is excited to meet you, and it's like, really? Like, I mean, he could have been like blowing smoke, but I was like, okay, yeah, man, I need a job. I'm like living at a hostel right now, like going from building to building, like putting out my resume, and nobody was really fucking with me. So it's like, yeah, it kind of happened. Yeah, it happened, and it's wild how you take that leap of faith, because most people will be like, yo, Gabe, I would have never like left my like proper job, stable job, to go across the world and not have a job lined up. Like, most people wouldn't even quit the job unless they have another job lined up. So this is like those those moments, those periods of uncertainty is where you really figure out who you are. And not to say where you really figure out, but like that's whenever you find out like what you're made of, because it's like you don't know when that next paycheck is, well, because there is no paycheck coming up next. You don't know like how long you're gonna be here, like when you're gonna, like what food you can eat. So you're eating certain meals, like, man, I gotta keep my money low. Like, it was like all kind of shit was going down, like psychologically, mentally, to play into like, yo, man, I'm not really here on holiday like these other tourists. Like, this is my life now. Like, I'm living out of I'm living out of my suitcase, like literally. Like, been drinking like suitcase. I've been living out of suitcase. Like, that's really how you're doing whenever you're overseas. So I get to the school, I meet my homeroom students, aka my first daughters, and it wasn't like, actually, it didn't start off bad at all. It didn't start off bad. Like, I remember walking in the first day, and the leader of the class, and the reason why I call her the leader is because she made the best grades, and the girls respected her. The girls looked up to her, and I feel like she was like the self-elected leader, or not the self-elected leader. She was like, it was like the classroom elected her to be the leader based on just her mannerisms. She was more mature than everybody else. It wasn't like she was older than everybody else, but she was more mature. She was smarter. Um, Yeah, she was Thai with the Chinese parents, so Thai and Chinese, and I think the classroom favored her because, and we'll get into this later, but she had lighter features, lighter meaning like, and they were all Oriental, all most of them. Well, they were all Thai, but she was like Thai and Chinese, and she had, their words, whiter skin. So I feel like that made her more, their words, beautiful. And being that she was smart and she made the best grades, she was just like the pronounced like leader of the classroom. So when people came in, or when teachers came in, like she would stand up and she would say the words like stand up, and everybody would stand up, and almost like say, good, I mean, in unison, good morning, teacher, or something like this. It was like, oh shit, like this doesn't happen in the States, like this doesn't happen back home or whatever. And it was cool. It was cool, but I told them like, yo, you don't have to do all that, like, and I'm not I'm not used to that type of like reverence, and I necessarily didn't want that. I was like, relax, relax. Like, we're gonna get into, my style of teaching. I had no style of teaching. I'd never taught before, but like, I didn't want them like to treat me like I'm some like autocratic leader either. Like I'm like this is some, you know, autocracy. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't want that either. So it's like, just relax, have a seat, and yeah, the first day we just had conversation. You know what I'm saying? The first day it was like each young individual, each student, I wanted them to come up and tell me about themselves, and like, no, like, you have the floor, like, tell me what you're into, tell me what you like, tell me your age, tell me your name, because they have Thai names and then they have English names, right? And then, or nicknames. So it's like, tell me your Thai name, tell me your nickname, tell me your age, what your interests are, what do you like. And this will be an English speaking activity, because you're going to be standing up speaking English. This will be a public speaking activity. This will be an activity on confidence and self-esteem. This speaking publicly is going to be, you're going to cover a lot of bases here, but then this helps me to figure out, to assess who you are, because I constantly tell you about my personality archetype. I am extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving person. Type A, meaning like I am like sociable, like on steroids, put it that way. Like I am like a people person, but magnify it. When they say social light, think of a light bulb, and then when there's more people around, magnify the brightness of the light bulb according to how many people are around. Put it that way. That's me. So it's like I like the whole process and engagement factor of understanding people, figuring out people, assessing what makes them tick, what makes them talk, what makes them happy, what do they enjoy, what do they not enjoy, what makes them turn up, what makes them kirk out. Like, that's my shit. That's my shit, because then I can see, okay, you have strengths here, you have some challenges here. You would be best doing these types of things. You probably would not be too keen doing these types of things. Because you're not too keen doing these things, you probably should be doing these things to improve your improve you as a whole. Like, this is how I think. So boom, I was doing that, and I told them about myself, and I'm transparent, and I'm telling them like where I lived, and how I grew up, and I'm really talking to them about how I was at their age too, because it's like, it was incredible to be like, yo, you girls are 11 and 12, like you're equivalent of the sixth grade. Like, I distinctly remember me being in the sixth grade in Greenbrier Middle School here in Chesapeake, and it's like, I know what type of person I was too. I didn't know how turned up I was too, and I mean, not turned up in a bad way, but I mean, like, I was like this as a 12-year-old. So I mean, it was just an incredible experience for me to have that like self-effacing moment, to be like, oh, okay, boom, so this is how these girls are moving, and whatever the case may be. um but long story short, or short story short, that honeymoon phase didn't last long, because once they got accustomed to me, once they figured out my personality, and when I say figured out, once they saw that it's like, oh, he's a nice guy, or he doesn't necessarily know, as a teacher, he shouldn't be, attempting to befriend us, or he shouldn't be as, laid back and nonchalant as he is. He should be a bit more authoritative. He should be more direct, because that is how the Thai teachers are. That is how a lot of Asian cultures are with their teachers. The reverence and respect and adherence to the rules for adults, or just, educators, is like Like here in the States, we might be like, man, who the fuck are you? You're a teacher, you're a substitute teacher, you're a whatever. Like, we don't really have that same level of we don't admire them or revere them in the same way as we should, honestly. But in those cultures, they're bowing. I mean, whying is what they call it when they do like this, and that's a Thai culture thing. That's a Thai thing. But like they bow when the teachers walk in, like when the nuns come in, like the head is low. Like there is a legitimate like understanding that I am a pupil and you are the person who is in charge. And because initially I didn't, and I still wouldn't change anything. I didn't want that like bowing your head to me, like no, don't do that like let's have conversation. Like this is the English program, so like we're gonna do it like how we do it in the States, and like no, like don't do all that with me, but like have respect. And I feel like because they didn't do those why things, it's almost like having your parents' friend, and you normally talk to your mom and dad in a respectful way, but you have a cool, your dad has a cool friend and he doesn't want you to call him Mr. something, but you find out whenever you don't call him Mr., you subconsciously or unconsciously, or whether you know it or not, start to treat him like he's one of your buddies. And it's like, well, no, actually he's the age of your father. Actually, he's your dad's friend. You know what I'm saying? Actually, like you're not his peer. You know what I'm saying? You're not his, you're not of his, you know, you're not of his status, but I've done that. I mean, I've seen that. Like, once you get buddy with somebody, you almost treat him like your buddy, and he's not your fucking buddy, bro. So it's like, I was having that issue with my students, and whenever I was going to, oh, my mom's going to the gym. Whenever I was understanding, like, what is going on with these students? Why are they not like? Why are they not listening? Why are they not? Why aren't they? You know, following the rules or whatever the case may be. I had to take all of that into account. I had to take into account that I wasn't planned. I wasn't regimented. I didn't provide them with that organizational like structure that I should have. Maybe I was too complacent. Maybe I did place too much independence into their into like how I interface with them, and I remember telling them, it's like, girls, you're not the third graders that I teach. You're not the first graders that I teach. You're not the second graders that I teach. Like you girls are now like, and I would tell them, you're young. You're in the process of becoming young ladies. you're gonna be you are preteens, and I would like stress to them, it's like, I don't want to treat you like a kid because you aren't kids. And I was seeing that, like, girls, you're not the 7-year-old, 6-year-old girl. Like, you're 11 and 12. And I remember when I was 11 and 12, and I remember looking at 12, 13, being in middle school, and looking at some of the girls that were in my class, and I was seeing how, like, maybe mentally they were still like, 12 and 13, but I was aware that it only takes a year or two where you see physically that they mature much faster, like drastically faster. And I was like trying to get the girls prepared mentally for that. It's like, girls, like, I'm treating you older than what you are because there's going to be a point whereby you are going to be perceived to be older than what you are. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying, like, you need to be mentally prepared for this, cognitively prepared for this, educationally you need to be mature. And that's what I was trying to push to these girls, and I was getting pushed back. I was getting a lot of pushback, bro. Like, there was a shit ton of pushback with that, because it was incorrect. I wouldn't change anything honestly, but it's incorrect for me to expect, just because a girl's 11 and 12, that she's supposed to act 13, 14. It's incorrect just because a girl's 11 and 12 and I know that she's going to go through her stage, or maybe they had already started their stages of puberty and maturing into young ladies, that it was going to be a light switch and they were going to be like, yo, I'm ready to be treated like a young lady. Like, no, like, those girls were still 11. They still played like they still played games. I mean, not games like mental games. Like, no, they were still playing like equivalent to like Jackson on the floor and stacking cups and, ring around the rosy. They were very actually, to think about it, to put it in perspective, being that they were at an all-girl school and being that they were sheltered and being that they had these environments that were, very closed off, and they were away from boys, and they just, they grew up in these schools from kindergarten to seniors in high school. So it was like they were in their own like bubble, like literally their own ecosystem. So to put it in perspective, the 12-year-old in America, or where I grew up in Virginia, and I went to a public school, like the 12-year-old here would be equivalent to like them being like 9 or 10 years old, 9 or 8 years old mentally. Put it that way. Like if they were 11 or 12, based on their age, mentally they'll be like an American 9-year-old. They were very, very, very young. They were very young, and I should have embraced that, I guess. I should have understood that. I should have been a bit more gentle. I should have been a bit more understanding of that. And it forced me to. I mean, they forced me to. Life forced me to understand, like, Gabe, you can't really expect maturity out of young girls who are 11 and 12 in Thailand the way I think what maturity is, because that's not correct. That's not feasible. That's not it wouldn't make sense. That's not practical. So yeah, yeah, there were issues. There were like palpable issues. There were like visceral issues. There were like, to the point it was like physical issues, like homegirl like connected and try to swing on me. Like there were issues so like real within the classroom that like it blew up. And I'll get to that in part 3, but God bless. I love those girls. And I love the fact that they forced me to mature and grow up. My Kalagoon.